Open Up Africa. Thoughts, ideas, real discussions by the youth on Open Up Africa.
Hello there, welcome back once again to another session of Open Up Africa. Today is very special, so we would like to keep it special. I hope you're okay. I hope you're keeping safe. With me today,
that's really great. That's really great.
With me today, as usual, there's Arafat.
Please,
House rules.
Try it out, because I will show you that.
Just like that, the protocol goes. We sanitize. If you go on to our social media platforms, we're looking at how the COVID-19 has affected, still where it began and where it has led us to. Have you learned some lessons, good or bad, the effects, positive and negative? So maybe we could start with you. When it comes to the COVID-19, there's where it began. If you remember, just take us through your experience, because we were all quarantined at our specific, when I say there was self-quarantine, where they said stay home, stay safe.
Actually, to me, COVID-19 has been too advantageous than a disadvantage.
Hey.
To me, as a person, because it taught me how to. First of all, the first lesson I learned is, I remember we went into the lockdown on 21st, is it 21st March? 21st March. That was the
Some went earlier, depends
that was
on
the first
country.
lockdown, in Rwanda. But since then, we started working from home, as you know. But it taught me that I can even...
You started working from home.
Yeah, I started working from home, and some people were still working from their offices.
Yes.
But what I learned mostly is that even when you are at home and focused, you can deliver more than even at the office. Because you can, if actually to people who have families where they have kids, they have relatives, like many people in the family, it's really very challenging, because it's hard to focus. To be focused, and attend to your work. But someone who lives alone, someone who maybe lives, or maybe you may not be living alone, but having a separate room where you can go and do your activities without someone disturbing you, it's really very good to focus. Because as you know very well, when you are at work, you have this one, you have Liz, you have Andrew coming close to you and discussing with you a lot of things. Sometimes someone passes around, you want to greet, you understand? That is time lost. But when you are alone at home, focused and settled, you are able to do a lot of work within a short period of time and be able to deliver at work. So that is the number one thing I've learned with COVID-19 pandemic. Another thing, it has taught me about saving.
Hey.
COVID-19 came as a game changer to people who thought that saving is not important.
Was a dream.
Was it saving though, or was it you cutting the costs because you're staying at home and you're not easily?
Yeah, those are two things actually. I was also going to bring that. When it came, people who didn't have money on their accounts suffered. People who didn't have what to eat at home suffered.
There are these daily earners who they call. There are some daily earners.
Hand to mouth. Is it
Hand
called
to mouth?
hand to mouth?
You
what
earn, then you
what
eat.
You earn. I don't
what
know.
you earn is what
Maybe,
you survive on. There's a term that is used.
I don't know whether I've phrased it well, but the thing is,
daily
those
earners
also suffered. Daily earners suffered a lot. But I'm also talking about people who professionals, people who are career-guided people, like people who have professionals.
The elites,
the elites.
The professional circles.
Yes. Those who didn't have money on their accounts still suffered.
Very many.
We've seen companies, some companies suspended contracts.
Very many.
Companies actually
laid off workers.
Yeah.
They cut the salaries.
Yes, some companies could not go ahead, leave alone just cutting salaries of the employees. But also the companies were not able to move on because they didn't have capital, they didn't have customers. When, like for instance, let's talk about some farmers. If you are a farmer and you had maybe you had bananas in your farm, and you remember it was very hard by then to be able to access markets. You see, most of the bananas were supposed to stay in the garden and rot from there. And I think you saw the story in Rwanda that was during COVID-19 where someone had about 2,000 chicken, and he couldn't find the market. Couldn't find the market since then up after COVID-19.
We're talking about chicken.
You see, so a lot of work were lost, but most people who didn't have savings, it's what I'm talking about. People who didn't have savings on their accounts suffered a lot.
Especially for those who
look at the youth. If you were working without saving any money, that means you suffered, because in the lockdown you had nowhere to go, but you had to eat. You cannot exclude eating from COVID-19.
I hate to cut you short, but so your point is you personally didn't suffer, you gained from this COVID situation?
I gained on the part of working from home, and I also gained on saving lessons, because that is a gain. I learned that without saving, anything else can happen still, and you suffer. I also gained in a way that I did not spend a lot, because I was not moving out. I was not going clubbing, you know. We do that.
That is the first thing you have to say. You weren't going clubbing.
I wasn't going clubbing. I wasn't going out, by the way. But you know, transporting whatever costs and all that, I wasn't giving them out. That is an advantage. But when you look at the disadvantage,
you weren't giving restaurant tips.
Yes, I wasn't. By the way,
tipping. He does it.
I don't give tips, and actually people knows about me. I don't give tips. I don't know, but
sometimes it referred to,
maybe it's about
referred to as well.
For me, I would add on Arafat's point was actually advantageous.
Hey,
because
testimonies
first of
here.
all, I learned about how to take care of myself. You know,
Sure.
like, that is discipline too.
I'm curious.
You know?
What?
No, like you have to maybe be careful. Like you'll not just touch anything anywhere. You know.
Okay, they
Yes,
stopped us from
seriously.
touching.
Hygiene part of it.
Yes, I learned that and how to be, just how to have a behavior of being clean, of always being cautious about what I'm going to touch or who I'm going to greet. You know, it should have always been like that, right? Like, what if someone is from the toilet and they didn't wash their hands? You know, it should
But actually,
have
most
been
don't
like that.
wash.
Exactly.
Used don't wash.
So
Actually,
you just come and greet someone. Especially
It's true.
guys,
Kazibwe.
Oh,
don't wash
what?
your hands.
I don't want you to laugh at this because
I move with my thing, my
Okay.
friend.
But that is after COVID-19. That is. You
So
see,
most of
we
us
can call this
conscious about-
post-COVID-19 maybe if you think.
It's still,
But it's still.
For Andrew. So anyway, yes, I've learned to be cautious, as I said, and also it has been advantageous in the sense that I actually saw life in a different perspective. I didn't have a job then, but then I thought this is the time for me to actually get there,
wake up.
and because people are losing many jobs, so
They have lost.
many people gained some jobs, okay, few, but many lost jobs.
People even
And so
fear
for me,
giving
I
testimony.
thought I could get a job out of this. I could actually sit. I started a small little startup business and got a job, you know, out of it. And actually not just one job, 2, 3. I was just out there hustling.
Orders are coming
But
in.
also, when I was doing all that, I was always careful, you know, and I'm sure it's not just me. Many people have learned to, you know, wash their hands every time, or, you know, they are more clean now.
I've heard some experts saying that because of this new behavior of regular washing of hands and cleanliness,
Yeah.
some diseases like bacterial diseases have been able to reduce.
suppressed.
Yeah,
They have reduced,
I
and
really hope.
and if they do a good research, they will get to see what the extent at which it has reduced. And I'm sure COVID-19 has also brought in that as a
Yeah.
good thing.
I think what Lisa's also mentioned, I realized maybe before that hygiene, because I had a friend of mine who could move with a sanitizer before the COVID-19, yes. So he could reach and is like this and people, of course, to you could be like, what is he all about? You think for us we are
Do you
not?
really think that way though?
That's how we used to
Why
think.
not?
That's how
Kazibwe
we
is a
used to
villager,
think.
don't you know?
I come from a village, but the village is not in me. I'm not a village.
It is you. What? But anyway,
I'm not
me,
a
I'm
village.
hoping we really
So-
keep with this, like we keep up with this, the hygiene,
Yeah, sure.
and yeah, we could get up.
But remember, the campaign has to continue if people are to stay with the hygiene, because they have just
I'm
experienced in
hoping
7 or 8
they
months,
do.
and they're going to
that's
experience
the
it.
thing.
Maybe they are also going to experience it like more 2 years to come as COVID-19
Interesting
continues.
things that
But
happen.
if the campaign's awareness doesn't continue about keeping the hygiene in people's minds, it is going to die out.
Okay, if you remember, just important facts just to note about what happened in our personal experiences. First, you can remember that a lockdown came. And
actually,
some people
you
could
did-
not believe.
Would you didn't tell us about what happened
Oh.
to you, eh?
Let me now.
You
I'm
work
talking.
from home too.
I work from home, of course. For the first time, we saw the announcements. We saw, of course, we used to see the international news when the shutdown had begun, the
Yeah, we
lockdown.
thought that is
And
for
we thought,
white
this is a white man disease, disease, ya wazungu. So we're like, the white man disease.
Yeah.
Then things came. When they announced the first cases, we're like, we had in Kenya, had in Uganda. When? We had in Rwanda, then Uganda, right?
Yeah.
Uganda came
Yeah,
last.
came
Tanzania
last-
didn't.
last-
If Tanzania was a
Burundi
bit.
doesn't have.
Burundi has cases.
Burundi has cases, but
they
Tanzania,
don't have
earlier Tanzania reported cases, but after some time
they stopped reporting the
cases.
updates.
Yeah, so.
And now they say COVID is part of them, and it's not a big
But
deal.
really, we deserve a clap, because Rwanda has done a great job when it comes to fighting COVID-19.
Of course, big ups to Rwanda. These things are serious.
And actually, big up to the population of Rwanda. The people of Rwanda have really
No, they
have participated in.
they have a
ensuring
really
that,
systematic way of doing
yeah,
things.
people
You
have
could find,
participated.
I think for the first time, I think when I was moving in the streets of Rwanda, you could see, of course, implementing the wash your hands strategy. You could find at every supermarket there's at least a guide who's saying first wash, reminds you, go back and wash. And after washing, there's a like sanitize. So this was something that people were like, what?
And like,
What?
look, when it broke up in Uganda, people, I was talking to my people there, and they were telling me, you know what? For us, there's no COVID-19 here. You could find someone. People were hugging. Even right now, there are some places
Some of
I know
them.
people are still
definitely. Some
hugging.
still
People are
denying
still like
COVID.
living
Not
the normal
serious
life.
about it.
And thanks to God, maybe COVID-19 did not land there. But if
No,
it happened,
it did, but when you look in...
I mean, in those
It just
areas,
hasn't-
in
it
those
just
areas,
hasn't affected the people
Close
so
to
you
them.
can see how serious
whoever
it
is, if you look at people who are maybe up to now, if you look at people who are still hesitant about it, it means they haven't got a case in their inner circles. Because if this hits you, like you have a patient or a friend of yours, you'll be like, what? This is serious.
Or if
If you lose
and
someone.
actually I know even friends in Angola who actually themselves put themselves in the lockdown even before the government started it, and they were
That's
like, no,
serious.
we are scared of this thing. We've seen what is happening in other countries, in Western countries. We know what is going on, so we cannot hesitate to protect ourselves. So those people just went into the lockdown.
If you remember the initial days, streets clean. They had to bring the army,
I
security,
remember
like
seeing-
police.
Yeah,
I
sure.
remember
The police
still
was the-
seeing the Ugandan in Kampala. All the people still on the streets. and how
You can
crowded
see the
it
touch
is.
Before-
parks filled.
Or like there are patients and then they are going to see their patients like.
But
in
I was
But-
shocked.
large
There are
amounts of
countries that
numbers.
shocked me that I didn't know that streets could be wiped clean. Nairobi. I mean, if you look at Kenya, like people, the total lockdown. At first, they had to bring the forces, the police forces, the army,
But
to
it
clear
wasn't
off the
easy.
people.
It wasn't easy
easy.
for the security
Africans,
organs to put
in fact,
them
if you look
online.
at African countries, we learned it the harder way.
Sure.
Governments had to bring the army, the police to the streets to chase them away, and this is what happened. But at the end of the day, again, you notice that governments had to do something. You notice I saw it the first time maybe in Kampala. In Kampala, they were constructing roads alongside that contract, that lockdown, because people were not there. You know, sure. Nairobi, things were being done as well. You know, go to Zambia as well. It was the same. South Africa also was hard clearing people off the streets. The people were striking, but at last.
You were telling us about
Me, I think it was the better way. It was the better way. I think I learned some good lessons. The lockdown, when it came, it struck me. I was like, wow. I had to first go on the streets to check out what was happening. And it was really tight.
Taking videos of yourself
yeah.
on the streets. Like, what
it was tight.
Guy?
You only had to get out when you are going for something. And you had to use, like, to dress like you have a program that is taking you out, you know? A really good...
What is he saying? What is he saying?
Was it for you to, like, start adopting to the mask situation?
It wasn't easy adopting to the masks. Yeah, it wasn't so easy. It wasn't easy. I felt a problem with breathing. I think the breathing... I felt that is when I valued my nose more than ever. I said, it is organ. Needed freedom. Needed freedom. So.
But I know many people who actually, up to now, they hate this mask.
Yeah, masks are not comfortable, of course.
I'm actually okay with it.
Okay, when we come back from the break, we'll just delve in more into the effects. They are those effects as generally the youth, how it has affected us. Arafat pointed some of them, knocked on some of them, but we shall delve more. What this means, the lockdown. And we hear there's a second wave of COVID-19. Oh! After the break.
Open Up Africa. Thoughts, ideas, real discussions by the youth on Open Up Africa.
Welcome back from that short break. Today we are delving into a discussion of the COVID-19 effects on what this pandemic has brought onto the total population, but the youth, of course, who constitute the total population. Just for your information, the youth make up close to over 1.2 billion, a number of 1.2 billion people globally, and that is about 16% of the total population. There's something that is very important when you look at the lockdown, what it brought in relation to the pandemic. I think we also had to reflect on the skills we knew that we had suppressed. For example, I did a lot of cooking for myself since I did.
You used to cook though?
I used to cook, but I did not take it. I could take it for granted maybe, but that's when I valued myself as a cook or as a chef.
Yes, many people started shows.
People started, even did you notice the posts were changing? People were not posting while they were on the beach. People were posting while they are in the kitchen. I've made these cookies. I've made what?
Some people were making fun of these slave queens.
Sure. Yes.
Put that in airport.
What were the slave queens posting?
Apparently, they used to post chicken, this, that, this place.
But what were they posting?
Post anymore. It's just matter.
But they blacked out.
Not serious. They would have posted greens.
You men have actually ignored these slave queens now. Because
you
no longer take them out, you've ignored them in this
There's
pandemic.
no going out.
There was that reflection, as Arafat said.
But
reckless spending, apana.
Reckless spending, no.
You see this one. If they come out, you're calling it reckless. If they come out of this pandemic and you people are looking,
they're going to eat chicken like nothing, eh?
They'll not have time for any of you.
Of course, some slave queens have discussed.
They will not.
No,
they'll look for more other people.
But trust me, this pandemic has also helped.
Maybe you're one of the slaves.
No, I'm not a slave queen.
This pandemic has also helped people. There are people who are teaching and they have switched professions. They are farmers right now. So there are slave queens you will find in the garden now. They have resolved to agriculture. It is possible. Do you know?
Also, it is amazing for them, and I think if that's happening, that's actually.
If we could have one.
It's okay.
Yeah, for the better,
the
right?
slave queens going to farming.
Yes,
that's great. That's something very great. Who doesn't like that?
We need real
look,
testimonies.
Actually,
I think.
COVID-19. One of the impacts that I've seen that seems to be positive to me is that some teachers, but it's negative actually to one side. Some teachers have shifted to other activities. Like most teachers, you find that I know a friend of mine who was a good teacher. He was teaching at one of the biggest schools. Is it King David? Something. He shifted. Now he told me he's doing farming in Nyagatare. He quitted teaching, and that is very bad.
Oh, he quit?
He quitted
We are
teaching.
losing. The education sector is losing.
We are losing some professionals who are supposed to be teaching. And when you look at this school, maybe where he's been teaching, they're going to look for another teacher.
It's true.
Exactly. I was telling
So
you,
there's going to be that
get jobs out
the
of this.
COVID-19 has also made people shift from one profession to another, which is also creating another gap from where they're coming
But
from.
it's also making them, so I was saying, even if they are changing from their usual work or employment, it is also opening their eyes to different other
Ventures.
Yes, activities to do. Because if you're just closed or fixed up on just one thing, you think you can only do this at the time. But then this pandemic comes as it did, and it actually opens your eyes to different other talents that you actually might have in you.
It's true.
But I think the problem is one,
Kinda positive.
it's really
on
good,
a long term.
but the problem is one, changing and forget where you've been. Because if like going to farming cannot stop you from remaining a teacher.
No, you have to focus on.
But
Trust me, if you look at the teaching profession, maybe lecturers, and for them they can cut it.
Those in
The
higher learning
fact
institutions,
that a school employs a teacher, in Africa, we're talking in Africa, it employs a teacher, and most of the time, of course, they have even contracts, but the contracts are not respected. The money is little, it doesn't come in time. Teachers have a month that is special. They have their month is like 55 days.
So
We know the normal month is 30.
Are you trying to say that people should quit teaching in lower?
I haven't
lower
said
learning
that.
institutions?
This is
that
a
what you're
message.
trying to
This
say?
is a message to get me right. This is a message to employers. We have known this. Even when a girl brings a boyfriend home and he says he's a teacher, the family can run crazy.
Are you
No,
Because most
vulnerable families are the ones who value them?
you say that
But
I'm dating a
highly-
teacher. How many
people
of your friends are dating a teacher?
to do what?
Actually, your heart has spoken.
So actually, we saw a lot of creations as well. When it came to media, we saw countries started prioritizing important professions and non-important.
What do you
It's true. There are people who are told no working. For example, health workers were working. It was
But also that was needed. Like, for
And
health
actually-
workers,
Not
that
everybody.
is needed.
not everybody.
COVID-19.
Security people,
Actually, shout out.
security personnel were working, right? Now, of course, teachers
But
were not
also,
working.
if a school is closing, how do you expect teachers to still work? You know?
But again,
actually-
it depended on how much resources they had. We have international schools that were teaching online. They just continued.
Cambridge courses.
Yes, they continued learning. You get it? So Cambridge became very important to people. You're
Cambridge
learning.
courses. Like actually, there's something COVID-19 has unveiled to people that people didn't know.
You can learn.
I didn't know.
From home.
I didn't know. No, leave alone that. I didn't know that teachers didn't know how to teach online. And I'm talking.
It depends on the school.
Stop
It
there. I'm
also
going to give you
depends
facts.
on
I'm
where
giving
they-
you facts now.
What they teach.
I'm
Prove
giving you facts now.
Prove that now.
COVID-19. There is in August. There is a letter I saw from the Ministry of Education that was sent to the higher learning institutions, stressing out the challenges they faced to continue teaching online. And one of them was like,
You need to tell us before you learn.
this is serious.
One
of them was that teachers were not lecturers actually. Were not conversant on teaching online, and they didn't know how to
let me tell you.
upload. Listen, some didn't know how to upload content online on the platform that was created by the
Why are
ministry.
you laughing at them? Why are you laughing
Because
No.
some
I'm not laughing at it. because it unveiled
The
what
naiveness
of
the educators.
of the educators. This is
The
serious.
ones that will tell you
How
why
can
you're
a lecturer who has a PhD?
He doesn't have the...
No. Let me give you this. If a lecturer who has a PhD cannot be able to upload content online, how do you expect a primary school teacher?
But seriously, was it?
No, the
about
thing is,
lecturer?
in the international schools, a primary school teacher or nursery can't do that. It's
There
true.
are those who
But
can.
it
There are those who
also
can.
depends on the what?
The system.
experience or the
The
life
system,
they've
it's true.
grown In, you know, these
As
are
well.
old people.
And by the way, that
No, yes, it actually.
You
is
cannot.
valid.
If you have
It is
a
valid
PhD,
point.
you need to advance yourself all the time, and you need to be like
They are
long
already
distance
getting
learning
their
in
money. How do
university.
you
Some
expect them
universities
to
No,
have
it's
had long
if
distance
you look at
learning,
that,
whatever
now that
programs.
is a lecturer who cannot
Just thinking
upload.
you
But
shouldn't
there are
have
schools, that were allocated. There are people who we realize that we need a technology today more than ever. You know?
Yeah.
Yes. You notice that. That's when we notice that a computer is not used for playing only
And
music.
Some lecturers didn't have
just
computers.
Come on.
Some
No,
lec-
that one I dismiss. I need to put a disclaimer.
Sincerely
Views
speaking.
expressed today
some lec-
not necessarily
This is
come
open up
from
Africa. Seriously, we need to
Please.
open up. Some lecturers didn't have computers.
In Africa, it's possible.
They didn't
And
have-
besides, you
They
are
were
talking
complaining about internet.
no, you are talking of computers.
Maybe internet. But
Maybe you can complain about it being slow, but you cannot complain about not being able to buy it. You were a PhD holder.
It locked
have-
them. This is
but
lockdown, and they don't have the money. You have talked
Arafat,
of
I
spending.
feel-
Yes, it's true.
Can I cut you guys short?
Yes, please.
Arafat, let me tell you. Do you know you can have a PhD or all these degrees and you actually don't have maybe a job yet, or maybe you just got it? There are many people who are going through so much like that. Yes, I know it is funny because
Your
oh,
defense
they have a
mechanism
PhD.
is not working because you are trying to defend
It
it.
is. I'm not defending.
No,
it,
but
I know there are many
it's a
people who
fact.
have different
It's a
stories.
fact. There are many
And
youth who
they
are
actually
educated
have,
and
like,
I
they
know
have
a
had
lecturer.
many more
I know
priorities. Listen to me.
someone
No, listen to
who
me.
is a doctor.
I'm speaking. Can you listen to me?
Okay.
Yes. There are many people who have had priorities in life. Right? Yes, you're a lecturer, but if you can go to class and actually teach your class, like whatever is asked of you, you're doing it. You have a class, you don't teach online. You know, they feel like they have many other things to do, right? To maybe get before the computer or a smartphone. Most of them don't actually have smartphones too. So you laugh at that maybe.
no, she has a point actually.
Yeah, sure.
When you look at that, even because it
So they won't know exactly how to use the computers, maybe. Plus, they are old men. Do you get that?
And women.
They are old men who studied in 1900. You guys.
on, for example, employees and employers, matching through the system that they follow the system. That is very crucial. Administratively, if they put this, they will follow it. It has to be in the contract, actually. But this person might say that because even in the contract it's not there. They have just advised. And it's true, it benefits them. But because they have just brought it and it's not in the contract. Remember, people are very...
But if we are opening up, Andrew, if you have your kid is going to a certain school, Liz, you have your kid is going to a certain school, and you realize that this school has some teachers who are not conversant about teaching online, and the era is telling us to go online for study, to go online. How will you advise me to keep my student there if the school cannot change that teacher?
No, you're right. That is an eye-opener when it comes to say, the education system and how it's handled. Now, but again, you have to consider the fact that in this time, we are told to stay home. So which means teachers stayed home. Could we ascertain that most teachers had electricity at home? We are talking of using a computer. It needs electricity. Were most homes electrified?
Rwanda. If to be
No, I mean,
specific,
no, we are
specific
saying
in Rwanda.
Africa.
Yes, okay. Specific in Rwanda, around, it's a big percentage. It's around maybe 70 and above that have electricity now in the country. Maybe 70 and above.
So
I'm not sure of
the
the
problem
statistics.
would be on the internet and look at the computers.
Access to electronic gadgets.
So
that was
actually,
that was
what
one
are
of the reasons.
Negative.
But yeah, I believe teachers should be kicked out who cannot go live.
So I think we have realized that they are different. But again, if, just to put out a point, just before we go for a break, we look at even COVID-19, the lockdown in the family, where parents had to realize that, hey, this is my daughter. Some, come when the daughters are sleeping and the sons are sleeping, and they realize, hey, this boy has grown. This is my son. My boy is developing beard. They gotten to get to know. Hey, there are parents who even don't know the handwritings of their kids.
I wish we could go into parenting.
Some don't know their classes.
I think we need to dive into that topic.
That's the parenting, I think.
It has to be a topic to be.
Yeah, it is.
Soon.
So for now, let's go for a break, and we'll be back with some of your views you have shared on our social media at OpenUpAfrica.
Open Up Africa. Thoughts, ideas, real discussions by the youth on Open Up Africa.
Welcome back from that short break. Remember, this is Open Up Africa and the hashtag Open Up Africa. Keep those comments coming in. In this segment, we have a topic. We have posted it on our social media platforms. To start with, Twitter at OpenUpAfrica. The topic is, like never before, the world has been greatly hit by a pandemic which forced economies into lockdown. With youth being the majority, we share the thoughts on the impact of this lockdown. Liz, what do we have?
So some of you have commented. There is one called, this name is funny. So one is called Special Sanitizer.
Those are some of the effects, in fact.
So he says COVID-19 introduced us to a realization of terms like pandemic, lockdown, social distancing, sanitizing, and washing hands, not forgetting staying at home, and wearing masks, scientific meetings, weddings. Yes.
Scientific weddings.
So yeah, which I actually totally agree. Don't you think?
Yeah.
All of what
everything became
introduced most of us to
I agree with
the
his
hygiene
list.
that's
I agree with his list, so.
sure. And another one called Ian Tatemba Mutohori says African.
From Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe, Harare.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Harare.
Tatemba. Yeah. So he says African young people are the most affected due to the closing of institutions and unemployment. A plan in form of petitioning governments to reduce school fees and put a waiver on import duty, tax, etc. on youth-owned businesses due to the till the end of the year is ideal.
I need to talk about that.
Okay, we moved away from teachers, and it doesn't mean that teachers. Okay, I think it's one of the professions that has a lot of old people. It's also
has been a lot more
been affected. But when it comes to the youth, I think we should look at. Ian brings up a very good thing that you can add on that.
It's something really I was surprised about is that. As he said, that they were highly affected as institutions and schools closed. It's really very serious. It's really a serious point. And this also goes to parents and guardians who were taking care of these kids, these children that left from school and went home. You look, when they go back to school, the government actually have forgotten that parents were at home. Some of them were not working. You understand? They were feeding these kids. There were very many because they had returned home.
Most of them.
And going back to school, these are the people that are expected to take back these kids to schools where they were.
What makes you think the governments have forgotten?
Because instead of putting in actually subsidies for school fees, because I believe there should have been a subsidy,
just like Ian has suggested.
Yes, on school fees when kids go back to school. Because without a subsidy, how do you expect me, who has not been working for 8 months, for 7 and above months to take my kid back to school at a school where I used to take him when I was working.
And also with increased school fees, have you had?
With increased
the fees?
But good enough in
Most
Rwanda I've heard, there is not going to be increased, there's not going to be increment of school fees.
Oh, there is.
Because look, what they agreed is that if you're telling the parents that now we are going to buy a washing tank, a hand washing tank, that's okay. Parents can contribute to the to bring in place that, but you cannot increase the school fee.
But the
Let me tell
smartest
you
way,
why.
the thing in the system, the smartest way of making sure that you can get that money in time from the parents is including it on the school fees.
But you
That's
know,
why it is increased.
and apparently because they'll go to their first term this time for, is it 6 months this time? So it also is long. It is
costly.
a lot of time, yes, and it is
imagine
costly.
schools are
You have
also
food.
trying
You have to get
increase
food.
The money. How? Sincerely, the money would go down instead of increasing.
How would it go down? Because
No.
do you know that there are schools
And-
that
and it would go down
do
with
you know
government
that
You are
No,
on the
there are
parent side,
schools
which we
that
understand,
haven't been
but
having
also,
facilities like clinics or 24
and not
hour
just that,
medical
they'll have
personnel.
to pay salaries for these
Yes.
teachers. It is a long time. 6 months
You
is
have
a
to
long
employ
time.
4 guards this
You
time
are the
because they
parent,
have
we
to watch
understand
over.
that.
So you
but
mean for parents who are not going to be able to take back their kids, they should keep them home.
no.
No, that's not
But-
That is the option. If things are going to increase,
things are
without
going to
working,
become
Maybe
expensive
they'll
and
find
they're
an
already
option.
expensive, we can
there should
see.
be a subsidy.
Can we
then.
please move
No,
on?
now the government,
school
I think
fees.
the government depends on us, the population, to survive. Now it hasn't been earning taxes. Of course, some taxes
Exactly.
were reduced.
These parents,
It's true.
these teachers
Where do you
have to
expect the
earn
government
too.
to get the money?
You know.
It has taken, most governments have gone for the COVID fund, loans actually. They have to pay back. Now what do you expect? So,
Okay, so thank you to Temba for that view. We have Foib Oluka who says, #OpenUpAfrica. I have seen firsthand how young people seem to have been thrown in the deep end of desperation. For most of them, being out of school has meant that they've had plenty of time on their hands that resulted to both boredom and self-discovery in hidden talents.
Of course, I agree. I think you have maybe you have something to say, but I still have something to say about that. Because when you look at what has happened, some kids they engaged in some working activities, like more especially boys. They engaged in some working activities after the lockdown, before the schools started. These are they are boys who are engaged in some work that yielded some money for them, and they think going back to school is nonsense now.
I saw a joke of this guy who says, I don't want to go back to school because now I just want to make my money and live my life. You know? And that is the point of most
Liz, for
boys who
bringing that
think
to notice.
they've started
It also reminds me. Remember the lockdown,
businesses.
the total lockdown when it began. It helped us, or it brought to the table the world to question the level and the importance of the professions we are having.
Sure.
Did you notice that you notice? These ones are allowed to work. These ones are not allowed to work. So
And
now
some of
you
them
understand,
have
like,
to work.
My profession is a non-essential worker.
I remember, yeah.
Non-essential workers and essential workers.
Glad and essential.
So imagine if you are studying, maybe you are even doing that course, and you look at that profession is the one they have said stay home. No working.
Ooh, boy.
I mean, most of them might have fallen out. They say, no, let me change the course. Let me revise this.
But we're talking about the impact it has had on
The
youth.
youth.
But we should not. Actually, we should have started with the impact it has had, especially to be specific on girls.
Girls.
Like
Why?
teen pregnancies,
Teenage
have risen,
pregnancies have risen.
Or they have.
early marriages. You understand? Incest. I recently talked to a girl.
Oh yes,
from
incest.
from Majerajere in Nyarujenje district, Kigali city. She was telling me that she at home she lived with her uncle who is in the same age with her. But
That's not a problem.
he always portrayed the image of having a sexual kind of relationship with her.
Yes.
And she used to escape him by going to school. The only escaping point was only going back to school.
Yeah.
But during the lockdown, where they were staying together,
There is no escape this
every
time.
minute, and when parents are not at home. At one point, the guy came in his room.
In her room.
Sorry, in her room. The guy came in her room and found her naked. The guy raped her.
Oh Lord.
You understand?
He still lives?
Yeah.
Most still.
And the guy
So my
disappeared.
point is like he
The
should
guy
die.
disappeared,
Like, what?
and the guy disappeared, and they don't know where the guy went. You understand? After doing that.
And you can only
So,
imagine how many people are facing
This is
that.
one
It has
example.
happened. Yeah,
This is
that's
one
one
example.
example.
But actually, that was
That's one
her
example.
uncle,
Yeah.
a brother to her father. You understand? A young brother to her father.
Man, you need
understand?
to revise
That is a
your
that
ways.
is a child. How
So
old
you can
was
You
he?
need
imagine
to
how
revise
many
your
was it?
ways.
The guy
That
was
is terrible.
25 and the girl was 18, 19,
Oh,
around
25.
there.
He's a man.
So you can imagine that happening. How many people are facing that incest? For instance,
Does happen a lot.
father to
Even
mother,
father, daughter,
sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, father, daughter,
sister, brother.
sister,
It's
brother,
happening.
That is disgusting.
uncle, you know.
first of
It's
all.
happening.
You know, cousin, brother. Those things are happening, and they have happened during the lockdown because they are living together. So you see, COVID-19 has brought a very destructive situation to many people.
That is sad though.
So there are also
That is so
lessons
sad.
that we have to learn from it. For example, advancement, we shouldn't be left behind. We have seen the digital migration, everything electronic
Electronic.
and everything. So I think it's also something to help us move with the trends and on forward.
And also,
Any last words?
my last
Please.
words would be we should try to not just think we can only do one thing at the moment. Like that one thing that you're doing at the moment, don't feel like it is the only thing that you are good for. You can just open your eyes to many other different talents that you might have or many other things that you could do. Because if you lost that job, God forbid, what would happen to you? You know, we should think first and also openly as the youth so that we can actually be better people. And yeah.
Literally, this means that job, today you lose it, or tomorrow you might lose it. So don't.
You could. So just don't put your eyes on just one thing. Struggle, work hard, get something else to do.
My point is one.
As young people.
A lot has happened. A lot has happened during the lockdown and has happened during the course of COVID-19 pandemic. But that is not the end of life. We should continue from where we stopped.
And try to be
If you were a
positive.
student, please go back to school. What you've been doing is an opportunity that has come across you. You've done it, you've experienced it, but go back to school. If you've been having a company working and you see it's going slowly by slowly, go back, work hard and make sure you retain your company.
Don't give up, yeah.
Don't give up. That's the only thing I can say, because COVID-19 has brought a lot of challenges, but these challenges shouldn't be the root cause of our falling. We should still continue and work hard and stay and go back to where we were.
Funny is how security people started checking temperatures of doctors, and we saw a gradual shift. Pastors carrying alcohol in their coats
You
and
know?
sanitizers. So that is funny, but it still continues. Alcohol has made its way to the church.
But you know,
So
maybe one
yeah, it is. This
this
is
guy
happening.
with alcohol. But I'd like to just say
But
You
Yes.
want to add something
Closing.
after you've closed?
after
Yes.
we close,
I want to open up
After
you are the
banning?
lady
and
to be-
say that men, please, I'm actually begging
she's
you.
begging.
You guys affect us. I can't say affect, I can't only say affect us, but you destroy us physically, you destroy young girls mentally, psychologically. These girls are hurt, and you guys need to watch whatever it is that you think you're doing. You wouldn't want it to be done to your sisters or your mothers. You wouldn't want to hurt them in that way.
This has been Open Up Africa, and this is a wrap up. Bye for now.